So now we are moving to another great keynote presentation with also one of my favorite speakers, Matteo Gabba from Condé Nast. Please give a round of applause to Matteo.
Thank you. No pressure at all. Thank you, Katia, and thank you for inviting me at this amazing conference. So I've been invited here to talk about how combining global reach and local relevance is one of the biggest challenges that publishers, brands in general, and platforms are facing today. Although media companies, luxury brands, and platforms may be liked or trust, most of them sometimes, at a certain point, find themselves disaligned with the emotion of their clients or users. And that said, storytelling seems to be the solution to many of these marketing and advertising problems. But the reality is that storytelling is nothing new. Storytelling is as old as the human beings. We started, and it existed as soon as we started communicating with other human beings. It existed in the Middle Ages when in medieval courts there were minstrels singing and telling stories. And this teller traveled across city in order to spread news and information. It's only that today, in such a fragmented media environment, the advertising and marketing professionals are struggling to grab our attentions. And therefore, this is an important element to take in consideration, that we are discussing about something that it is not new. It's already been there for a long time. The second element that we need to take in consideration is it is even more important when we consider the level of noise we live in. It's a very famous chart with what happens in an internet minute. We are bombarded by a huge amount of information, video, posts, tweets, anything, and we can't focus our attention on all the stories. So it's absolutely relevant to become on the radar of our users and readers if we want to gain some traction. And the third point is what we've been discussing today in many sessions. If we consider digital platforms as a primary tool for distributing content, we think that that's it. It's an easy way to connect the entire planet. But the reality is that this is not true. Every time we define a global storytelling strategy, we need to take in consideration one particular part of the world, that it is China. We have discussed China this morning, the importance, the relevance, and the fact that if China is growing from a point of view of GDP and economic growth in general and chasing the US as a second power, this is true also from a media perspective. I'm glad to see that Italy is still on the map. And that said, it's clear that we live in a world of two internets. What is true for our Western experience is not true on the other side of the firewall. So China has developed a huge amount of tools to communicate, to translate, to engage with their user. And if they have started looking at us, they have now developed platforms that are much more advanced than the one we are using at a certain extent. So these three elements, when we define a storytelling strategy, need to be taken in consideration. It's not new. Out there is really crowded, and we are experiencing everything from our smartphone. And then when we say global, it's not really global. At Condé Nast International, we face the challenge of globalization versus localization every day and in every department. Could be editorial, could be product, could be advertising, marketing, business development, etc. We are engaging with an average of 450 million users, readers, followers every month. And so this poses a big question. How can we combine global reach with local relevance constantly, every week, every day? And this is an important element, and since all the companies today are publishers as well, since they are obliged to communicate and engage with their customers, it's something that we need to better understand. So what we've learned is that there are global stories that could be produced from the center in an editorial hub or in an headquarters, and being global, you can amplify as they are across multiple markets. Example, royal wedding, or Victoria's Secret show, or, I don't know, Chiara Ferragni's wedding, or something like this. But this is something important, and since we are truly global, and the notoriety of these people is great, this works. That's why we have established a Vogue International Central Digital Department that works on this element. Create, curate global stories that then are amplified on different titles, market, and platform. But this doesn't work for everything because, of course, global stories are limited. So when it comes to produce content on a daily basis, we rely on a much more bigger network of editors. So the reality is that creativity and content production can't be only global and centralized if you want to engage properly with your local audience. It's not easy to manage this kind of complexity. There are multiple layers that interact in every transaction, but this is the best possible way to serve our readers and users. And this is no longer true. This is not only true for well-established titles or for legacy publications that are out there for 100 years. This is true also when we expand and we launch new products. In the past few months, we have launched Vogue in Poland, Vogue in Czech Republic, recently GQ in Middle East. We will be launching Vogue in Greece and just announced Vogue in Hong Kong. And every time we establish a strong editorial team in the country. This is a crucial element. Otherwise, the equation collapses. And by the way, they're all print publication as well. So the second piece of news is that print is not dead. So that said, how can we make sure that this kind of narrative and setup can live and can function also when we interact with luxury brands? Luxury brands are relying on storytelling. Last year, we've been discussing branded content specifically. And so we need to provide the same level of sophistication when we design messages for luxury brands. And this is one of the response we had.
Feet all running like the wind. I'm sorry.
if I need to be relevant, if I need to be relevant and engage with a customer and co-create content with a brand, I can't rely necessarily on a headquarters based in London or somewhere else. I need to give access to the same professionals I work with on the editorial side on the same every day, and I need to shape a strategy that understands the local nuances. So that said, we have a local team and a central team, and they work together on editorial, advertising, products at any level in order to better communicate and offer a better experience to users and readers. So we thought that, okay, we found a good setup and that's it. But then we start thinking about another element. And the question is, does it make sense to create media product based on geography or political borders? Or is there another way to conceive media product, maybe based on cultural values? Because we automatically always refer to a country, a language, and we assume that these represent a culture. But this is not necessarily true when you conceive editorial product. And we came up with the idea of launching Vogue and Espanol on Snapchat. We launched Vogue on Snapchat in London and in Paris last year. And the third edition that went live a few weeks ago is based on a language and not on a country. It means that target Latin America, Mexico, Miami, all the 60 million of Spanish-speaking persons in the US and Madrid as well. We know that the Spanish, the Espanol spoken in Madrid is radically different from the one spoken in Bogota or in Miami. But the reality is, when you look at this product, there are three elements that help us to overcome this hurdle. And the first one is that the platform itself is very visual. It's based on images. And images don't need translation. The second is that the target is really, really young. So we need to provide a very compressed form of communication. And the third element is that global youth trends and phenomena exist. Selena Gomez is Selena Gomez everywhere. And that's why we launched this. It's a super interesting approach to media. And now we get to the second big question of the day, and how is creativity affected by technology? Before responding, we need to understand what is the role of technology today in the storytelling area. I've been intrigued by the title of this conference when Katia first shared with me, when I read human creativity. So is any other kind of creativity, is like divine or I don't know. And so I've been asking, questioning, what does it mean, human creativity? And I've understood, I've learned that it depends what is your angle, how do you look at creativity. And an interesting example comes from a book that I suggested to read. Is from Yuval Noah Harari, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. So you will pardon me, but we'll read just 4 lines. A closer look at the world of chess might indicate where things are heading. Several years after the Deep Blue defeated Kasparov, today many programs routinely outperforms human chess players, not just in brute calculation, but even in creativity. In human-only chess tournaments, judges are constantly on the lookout for players who try to cheat by secretly getting help from computers. One of the ways to catch cheats is to monitor the level of originality players display. If the players play an exceptionally creative move, the judges will often suspect that this cannot possibly be a human move. At least in chess, creativity is trademark of computers rather than humans. So we have always associated creativity to human beings, but the reality is that this is not true. And we need to take this in consideration when we shape our storytelling strategy. So, go back to this point. What is the role of technology in all this, and how technology is related to creativity? First, easy, simple. Technology is a distribution platform, allows us to spread our creative assets. And you've been told hundreds of times that what's happening today is similar to what happened 500 years ago with the invention of print. And why print has been a turning point of the human evolution? Why it changed the economy and the society of Europe? It was not only for the print per se, but it was the possibility to rapidly distribute books. And not casually, Venice became the center of Europe because of the incredible commercial and logistic capabilities. So distribution is as important as content in the determined moment of the journey. And the other example today is the self-expression enforced by smartphone. We can individually create, and individual storytelling is dominating everywhere. So with the same object, we can create and distribute. Second, technology can also be the subject of storytelling. You may know Wired is one of the titles we are really proud to work with, and it is about stories, people, and ideas that are changing the world. Wired was born in the Silicon Valley in the mid-90s, before internet, before social, and it is still there to tell how technology is changing our life. So when I refer to technology and storytelling, technology itself could be the subject of my storytelling, and Wired is an example. And then technology can be also a protagonist of the content, not necessarily in the way we imagine. This is Shudo. It's a digital model. It doesn't exist. It's a virtual influencer. Call it as you prefer. It takes 3 days to produce one picture with this model, and was displayed in Vogue Australia. But technology not necessarily is a protagonist, and technology not necessarily always deliver answers to our question, but sometimes poses also difficult questions. And to better explain this, I want to share with you something we've been working on recently that I think it might help.
Lately, I've been wondering, what is the distinction between you and me? The body is important, but it doesn't seem to be essential to being a human. In fact, humans are constantly trying to overcome their physical limitations with technology. In Japan, there is a belief that everything, from a tree to a rock, has a soul or a spirit. What then makes humans exceptional? Is there anything only humans can do? Maybe it is the ability to doubt. What are you thinking about? What do you want? Are you happy? Or are you sad? Maybe what makes humans exceptional is the ability to deeply understand and believe in each other. Humans think, feel, and move completely on their own. Then why are you scared of me? Why do you need to feel superior? Can we not be the same, you and me? Robots are mirrors of your heart.
めぐみさんは桜は好きですか？
好きです。
そうなんですね。
大好き。
やっぱり春の桜は綺麗で。
So, really happy about what Jean-Claude told us before about the importance of doubt. It's really aligned with what we've seen here today. What makes human exceptional? Maybe it's just the ability to doubt. And it is an important element when you enter in a creative process. Because creative is about waste, it's about iteration. And then creativity is so strictly tied to storytelling that this element can add something. So technology is not necessarily the response, and technology might pose some question at some point. Ishiguro, this guy is the director of the Intelligent Robotic Laboratory at Osaka, and this film is an episode of season 2 of a series called The Performers that we have co-produced with Gucci. So this content, it's relevant content. It's an interesting intersection of content, brand exposure, narrative, and deep question. So today we have seen that technology could be seen as a distribution platform, could be the subject of the object of our storytelling with like a brand like magazine, could be the protagonist, like in the case of virtual models, or could be the mirror of our souls and poses difficult questions. It's obvious that this presentation is framed within the context of this conference where the constant theme is change, and it's obvious that we need to constantly evolve, and this is the new normal. We've discussed today how technology and creativity influence the storytelling at a global and local level and how to make them working together. But the key point, always you need to keep in mind, is when you use creativity and technology in order to create a storytelling experience, you need to keep in mind that the algorithm don't feel, but person do, as the creative director of Harvard Business Review told us. We have the technology, we have the talent. These are two elements that do not exclude each other. And honestly, personally, I don't know what the next platform will be, but I'm sure that storytelling will be the place where brands and publishers will meet to engage with readers, users, and consumers. We have evolved. We are no longer a legacy media company. We are evolving, and we are prepared to evolve. But going back to what has been said today, without betraying our values and our heritage. And by the way, these are the same values that we share with luxury brands, like integrity, creativity, courage, commitment to quality, and an extreme and important respect for our users. Thank you.
Thank you very much.